Well, happy Sabbath. Yeah, we're doing a series over the 28 fundamental beliefs of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and I chose the Great Controversy, and this is probably the most defining of the fundamentals of our church, of all of them, because this is probably the biggest difference between this church and the rest of the denominations of the Christian world. And there's a lot that goes with this, and I'll go through as fast as I can. But there's a lot of depth to this. But let's go ahead and begin. First of all, what is the Great Controversy? Most people think it's just the book that Ellen G. White wrote. They may not have read it, but that's the first thing that comes to mind: the Great Controversy, the book that she wrote. And indeed, she talks about this very subject. But it's more than that. It's basically what these last days, what the defining decision that you have to make in your life. And some of the questions that are asked: is the first day of the week or the seventh day of the week the Sabbath? And if you go talk to 100 Christians, you'll get a lot of different answers and a lot of different reasons why. And some of it is biblical, and some of it is just what they want to believe. You'll be amazed if you go out and ask that question. And if indeed the Sabbath day is the first day of the week, you have to ask yourself this question: did God change His holy day? If you have to ask yourself the question, and if He did not change it, who changed it and why? This is the questions that we're going to go through today. So let's go ahead and read kind of where this whole controversy began. And we'll start in Ezekiel 28, 14 through 17. Thou art the anointed cherub that covereth, and I have set thee so. Thou wast upon the holy mountain of God. Thou wast walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire. Thou wast perfect in thy ways from the day that thou wast created till iniquity was found in thee. And we're speaking about the archangel Lucifer when he held that position. And it says, by the multitude of thy merchandise, they have filled the midst of thee with violence, and thou hast sinned. Therefore I will cast thee as profane out of the mountain of God, and I will destroy thee, O covering cherub, from the midst of the stones of fire. Thine heart was lifted up because of thy beauty. Thou hast corrupted thy wisdom by reason of thy brightness. I will cast thee to the ground. I will lay thee before kings, that they may behold thee. And we're going to continue in Isaiah, but what is happening here is Lucifer coveted Jesus' position. He wanted to be in God's counsel. He wanted to be exalted, and he was not. He was the top angel, the top being in the kingdom in God's heaven, except for Jesus Christ and Holy Spirit. And he wanted to be even as God was. And because of this, he began to covet and to start all these sins that we have today. And this is where it kind of all began. And we'll go ahead and read Isaiah 14, 13 through 14. For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. So Lucifer decides that he is going to convince everyone, the whole universe, the heavenly hosts, that God's law is not just, that he is being treated unfairly, that his rule would be better than God's. And how does he do it? How does he do this? Get his loyal followers. He uses deceit. He tricked 1/3 of the heavenly hosts by placing his own characteristics upon God. He would change his words and the meaning of different things to convince them that what God's law was not right, that they were just slaves and they were not free. So he uses deceit to get his loyal followers, just as he used deceit to get man to sin and get us to follow him. When
when he got man to sin, he then decided that he would set up his own kingdom upon this earth. And by doing so, he decided that he would put into place counterfeit times and laws. And for an example is, God's day begins with the night and ends with the day. Satan's time starts with the day and ends with the night. And there's different things if you go through. He sets up counterfeit, his own counterfeit ways of doing it. He has, in the pagan world, he set up gods to represent like our God in heaven. He set up his own gods, which really, when you worship those gods, you're worshiping him because you're not worshiping the Lord. So he likes to counterfeit everything that God does. And now we're going to go into the subject of the fourth commandment. This is probably the biggest counterfeit that he did. He wanted to destroy the fourth commandment and to set up his own because he knew the importance of this commandment. But first of all, God's law is perfect, and he says so in his whole Bible. And it's eternal. It's not going to change. He never changed it. He's not going to change it because it's perfect. And the Lord put special significance upon this commandment. He says to remember the seventh day to keep it holy. He blessed it and he hallowed that day. Because not only do we keep that Sabbath, but he keeps that Sabbath, this seventh day. So he knew that this commandment was the allegiance to our Holy Father. And if he could get us to not keep the fourth commandment, he would gain a big victory over God. So let's go ahead and reread the fourth commandment. And I've highlighted some of the things. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou nor thy son nor thy daughter, thy manservant nor thy maidservant nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea and all that is in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. So he changed the Sabbath day to the pagan day of the sun, which is the sun god. If you know Roman and Greek, history, yes. And the sun is they saw the sun as one of the supreme gods because it rose every day. It was life sustaining. It kept them warm. This is how the seasons and the times that they went by. So the sun god was an important god to these people, to the pagan worshipers of these in Romans and the Greek history. So what better way to change the fourth commandment or to get rid of it than to change the Sabbath day from the seventh day to the first day, the day of the sun? And if he could do this, he would accomplish a few things. Number one, he would cause man to desecrate the Lord's Sabbath day. It's a holy day. If you do not observe the seventh day, then you're going to desecrate the seventh day because you're not going to keep it holy. Two, he would get man to worship him, even if man didn't even understand it or know that he was doing so. Because if you worship on the day of the sun god, you're worshiping a pagan god, which ultimately means you're worshiping Satan or Lucifer. Three, he would cause confusion and discord between the followers of Christ regarding the truth. Hence, called the great controversy. In our Christian world, one of the biggest dividing factors is which day is the Sabbath day. Even to the very end, this is going to be the very controversy that's going to decide who your allegiance is to. Amen. So, this great controversy is very important. And if we have to do a better job of helping people to understand and using Bible verse to show that the seventh day is the holy day. Because I personally have talked to my friends about the seventh day, and this is the common answer I get. It doesn't matter what day you worship the Lord, as long as you worship the Lord. That's the answer I get. And that is not true. Because if you read his 10 commandments, He said the seventh day is the Sabbath day. So, as we go from the past to today, we have to start with Daniel and Revelations, well, John the Revelator, and the visions that he had and the vision that John had. So we're going to read Daniel 2 through 8, and we're going to see the progression of how this happened. How did the time get changed? And it reads, Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of the heavens strove upon the great sea. And the four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse from one another. The first was like a lion, and had an eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth, and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. And behold, another beast, a second, like to a bear. And it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, Arise, and devour much flesh. After this I beheld, and lo, another, like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. And before I keep going, this is a whole different subject unto its own. So I'm just going to highlight and explain a little bit what's going on here. These beasts are representing the kingdoms of the earth that would hold dominion of the world. And all the way from Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, and finally Rome. That's what we're going through here. And then it talks about the 4th beast. After this, I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible and strong, exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake into pieces, and stamped the residue from the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. Okay. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns, plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. So, as we read here, the horns are 10 kingdoms. 10 kings. Okay? The little horn is talking about the Bishop of Rome when he gained power from Constantine. And as we're going to read in 24-25, this is where the great controversy actually took speed. And it reads in the 24th verse, and the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall rise after them, and he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws. And they shall be given into his hand until a time, and times and the dividing of times. That verse there, it says, and think to change times and laws is important, because this is the very beginning of the great controversy. Now, this is, when I gave my sermon over the 7 churches, we spoke about how Constantine pretended to be a Christian. He made Christianity popular again, and he decided to empower the church at Rome, and thus empower the bishop at Rome. And he gave them the power, the union between church and state, which allowed the church to enforce her dictates and persecute those who disobeyed. And one of the things they did, they decided to do away with the 4th commandment. Now, a lot of people who argue against the Pope changing the 7th day to the 1st day will say that he didn't do it at all, period. I mean, you can look through history, and if you look through history, it's actually true. The Pope did not change the Sabbath day from the 7th to the 1st. But what happened was, that was his will. And he used Constantine to do it. Constantine changed the Sabbath from the 7th day to the 1st day. But it was in conjunction with the will of the bishop. That's the truth. That's one of the deceptions that Lucifer tries to use. He tries to change history around just enough so that he can just prove what really happened. The Pope did change the Sabbath day from the 7th to the 1st, but he didn't do it through the law, through the through the power of the state himself. He used Constantine, who was a pagan worshiper himself. And that's what they were doing. They were trying to unite pagan worship with Christianity. And that's what was happening at this time. And this is just some history that goes with it. I got off the internet. Constantine, a pagan Roman sun worshiper, moved the day of rest to Sunday. The Christian church at its council of Laodicea, if we all know what church that is, that's the seventh church, ordered that religious observance be moved from Saturday to Sunday, which is the day of the sun. His famous Sunday law of March the 7th, 321 AD reads, "On the venerable day of the sun, let the magistrates and people residing in cities rest, and let all workshops be closed. In the country, however, persons engaged in agriculture may freely and lawfully continue their pursuits, because it often happens that another day is not so suitable for grain sowing or for vine planting, lest they be neglecting the proper moment for such operations, the bounty of heaven should be lost." That is the actual dictate that he used to change the law to make Sunday the Sabbath day. So, knowing that, where does this lead up to our time? So if you go from there, let's read Revelations 13, 17 and 18. "And that no man might buy or sell, save he that hath the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. What does that mean that says, "and that no man might buy or sell"? Well, think about the times. Back in the old times, the way to conquer the world was through your army. If you conquered a country, you controlled that country. If you controlled an area, you controlled that part of the world. And the Mediterranean Sea is where this usually all occurred, because if you controlled the Mediterranean Sea, you controlled that part of the world, because that was where trade and things happen. These days, with the technology that we have, that's a little hard to do without having a nuclear war. So how do you control the world now? Well, exactly. Financially. There's something that is now that there wasn't before. There's a world economy now. There used to didn't be a world economy. Each country had its own economy. Now all the economies are combined together. So if one country struggles, like, say, the United States, the rest of the world struggles too. There's a world recession right now. The United States is in a recession. One cannot do better without the other. So if you want to control the world, control the world economy. If you control the world economy, you can stop someone from buying and selling. That's what he's talking about in these days. So in order for someone to control the world economy, you have to be a world leader. And that is what the Pope is trying to do here. He wants to be the world leader so that he can control the economy of the world and thus control the world, control the countries. And it says, here is wisdom. Let him that has understanding count the number of the beast. So really, another question is, what is the mark of the beast? A lot of people think of 666. They think about the barcode, the thing in the forehead, having the forehead. You can't buy unless you have this code. That's kind of like science fiction, but is that really what the Bible's talking about here? And the beast, mark of the beast is talking about, it's the fourth beast in that vision. It's talking about the Roman beast that took over the world. And then the little horn was the Roman bishop who took control of that. It's no longer the Roman country, but the bishop, the Roman church. So many they believe that, but that's not really what it's saying here. Because as all things with the Bible, you have to discern it spiritually. What is it spiritually saying? It's saying that you must make a decision of whom you're going to serve, God or Lucifer. God set his holy Sabbath day on the seventh day of the week. Lucifer set his on the first day of the week. So if you decide to serve God, you will keep all 10 of his commandments, not 9, 10. And then he will seal you with the mark or the name in the forehead. If you decide to serve Lucifer, you will receive the mark of the beast, which means that you can buy and sell because the bishop will allow you to do so. And the beast, he calls himself the viceroy of God. but he is the viceroy, Lucifer. And if I know this is kind of an offensive statement to most of the Christian world, but let's go back and look at that verse in Daniel in 25. And he says, and he speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High. If you're the viceroy of God, why would you speak against your high God? If you're the viceroy of God, why would you wear out the saints of the Most High? And it's speaking about the 1260 years of persecution when he killed and persecuted the Christian followers of God, when the true believers. If you're the viceroy of God, you're not going to do that. If you're the viceroy of Satan, the enemy of God, you will speak against the Most High, and you will wear out the saints of the Most High. That is the difference. And just to kind of give you some recent history, Pope Benedict XVI in Vatican City, September 30th, 2009. During the month of October, Pope Benedict XVI will pray that Sunday is properly celebrated by Christians as the day of Jesus' resurrection, and that they will eagerly embrace their responsibility to share the faith. The Holy Father's general prayer intention for October is that Sunday may be lived as the day on which Christians gather to celebrate the risen Lord, participating in the Eucharist. His mission intention is that the entire people of God, to whom Christ entrusted a mandate to go and preach the gospel to every creature, may eagerly assume their own missionary responsibility and consider it the highest service they can offer humanity. He is already starting the process of trying to change that Sunday law, that we must serve the Lord on the first day of the week and not on the seventh. He's starting to put it out there. They're actually talking about finding a world leader to lead us out of the world recession. They're using new words, New World Order. I've done some research online. They're actually using this in news releases. The New World Order, let's find a leader. They're speaking these words. The Pope, the church will tell you that they have the authority to change anything concerning the Bible, because the Pope is the viceroy of God, and that he has the power to do so. That the Bible is secondary to their dictates. So that is why the church feels that it can change the fourth commandment and completely get rid of it. So we as Christians, we must make a decision. Who are we going to serve when this time of trouble comes? The Lord or Lucifer? Which day are you going to worship on? And this is the controversy between the Christian world today. Which day is the Sabbath day? And it's not just the Seventh-day Adventist church. There's Seventh-day Methodists. There's Seventh-day Baptists. It's not about getting people to come to the Seventh-day Adventist church and know we will welcome you. It's about serving the Lord on his holy day. If someone feels that they don't want to leave the Baptist church, then don't leave the Baptist church. But worship him on his seventh day. Obey all his 10 commandments. Not just 9 of them, all 10. All right. Thank you very much.